Give me your attention for the next 23 minutes, and I'll destroy the lie that's been keeping you powerless. Not with motivational speeches, not with empty promises, but with a truth so sharp, so brutal, that once you see it, you'll never be able to pretend you don't know what real strength is. Nietzsche understood something that the modern world has forgotten. Your weakness isn't a character flaw. It's a carefully constructed prison that society built around you, brick by brick, year by year, until you forgot you were ever meant to be dangerous. You've been trained to mistake submission for virtue, compliance for wisdom, and silence for peace. You've been conditioned to believe that power corrupts, that strength is selfish, that standing out is arrogant. These aren't moral truths, they're control mechanisms designed to keep you manageable. But here's what they don't want you to know. The very qualities they've taught you to suppress. Your aggression, your ambition, your refusal to accept mediocrity. These aren't character flaws to be fixed. They're the raw materials of authentic power. Today, we're going to excavate the warrior that society buried inside you. We're going to examine the psychological architecture of weakness and tear it down piece by piece, because Nietzsche didn't write for the comfortable or the content. He wrote for those ready to confront the uncomfortable truth that their weakness is a choice, and that means their strength is too. If you're tired of being overlooked, underestimated, and walked over, if you're ready to stop apologizing for existing and start commanding the respect you deserve, then settle in. Because what you're about to learn won't just change how you see yourself, it will change how the world sees you. The psychology of manufactured weakness. Let's start with the most uncomfortable truth of all. You weren't born weak. Weakness is learned behavior, and you've been an excellent student. From your first day of school, you were trained to sit still, speak only when spoken to, and follow rules without question. You were taught that good children don't make waves, don't cause trouble, don't demand too much attention. But Nietzsche saw through this deception. He understood that what society calls good behavior is actually the systematic destruction of your natural instincts. Every time you were told to be nice when someone disrespected you, every time you were punished for being too much, every time you were rewarded for making yourself smaller, you were being programmed to betray your own nature. This isn't accidental. Weak people are easier to control, easier to exploit, easier to predict. They don't ask difficult questions, don't demand better treatment, don't threaten the existing order. So society has perfected the art of creating weakness while calling it virtue. Think about your daily habits. How many times do you say sorry when you haven't done anything wrong? How often do you ask for permission to take up space, to speak your mind, to want something? How frequently do you dim your light so others won't feel overshadowed? These aren't polite behaviors. They're symptoms of deep psychological conditioning. Nietzsche called this the slave morality, a value system that celebrates weakness as strength, submission as wisdom, and mediocrity as humility. It teaches you to find meaning in your suffering rather than in your power, to take pride in your sacrifice rather than in your achievements. But here's the secret they don't want you to discover. The moment you stop seeking approval and start seeking truth, the moment you stop trying to fit in and start standing out, the moment you stop being agreeable and start being authentic, that's when your real power begins to emerge. The weakness you feel isn't your natural state. It's a learned response to a world that profits from your powerlessness, and just as it was learned, it can be unlearned. The illusion of safety. Now let's examine the psychological trap that keeps most people weak, the illusion of safety. You've been taught that if you just follow the rules, work hard, and don't rock the boat, you'll be rewarded with security, love, and respect. This is perhaps the most dangerous lie ever told. Nietzsche understood that life is fundamentally uncertain, chaotic, and uncontrollable. The people who pretend otherwise, who promise you safety in exchange for compliance, are either deluded or manipulative. True strength comes from embracing this uncertainty rather than hiding from it. But you've spent your life trying to minimize risk, avoid conflict, and guarantee outcomes. You've chosen the path of least resistance so many times that you've forgotten you have the power to choose resistance itself. You've become addicted to comfort, and comfort is the enemy of growth. Every time you stay in a job that drains you because it's secure, every time you remain in relationships that diminish you because they're stable, every time you avoid pursuing your dreams because they're risky, you're choosing the illusion of safety over the reality of power. But here's what Nietzsche knew. Safety is an illusion, but strength is real. The person who develops genuine inner strength, who builds unshakable confidence, who cultivates authentic self-reliance, who becomes truly self-possessed, this person is equipped to handle whatever uncertainty life brings. The weak person tries to control their environment to feel secure. The strong person develops themselves to the point where they don't need their environment to be controlled. They become their own source of stability, their own foundation of strength. Think about the people you admire most. Are they people who played it safe, who never took risks, who always chose the comfortable path? Or are they people who faced uncertainty with courage, who bet on themselves when others wouldn't, who chose growth over security? The truth is that real security comes from self-mastery, not from external circumstances. And self-mastery requires you to voluntarily expose yourself to discomfort, challenge, and uncertainty. It requires you to stop hiding behind the illusion of safety and start building actual strength. The power of authentic selfishness. Here's where Nietzsche's philosophy becomes truly radical. He believed that authentic selfishness is not just morally acceptable, it's morally necessary. But this isn't the crude selfishness of taking advantage of others. This is the sophisticated selfishness of refusing to betray yourself. You've been taught that putting yourself first is wrong, that considering your own needs is selfish, that prioritizing your own growth is narcissistic. But Nietzsche would ask you, if you don't value yourself, why should anyone else? If you don't protect your energy, who will? If you don't pursue your own development, what do you have to offer the world? The most generous thing you can do is become the strongest, most capable, most authentic version of yourself. But this requires a fundamental shift in how you think about morality and relationships. Stop giving to people who don't appreciate it. Stop helping people who don't help themselves. Stop sacrificing your time, energy, and resources for people who wouldn't do the same for you. This isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. This isn't selfishness, it's self-respect. Nietzsche understood that the person who constantly sacrifices themselves for others isn't noble. They're avoiding the responsibility of creating their own meaningful life. It's easier to lose yourself in others' problems than to face your own. It's easier to be needed than to be strong. But true strength requires you to be so complete, so self-sufficient, so authentically powerful that your relationships become choices rather than needs. When you no longer need others to validate you, approve of you, or rescue you, you can finally love them freely and genuinely. This means setting boundaries without guilt. It means saying no without explanation. It means prioritizing your own growth without apology. It means choosing relationships that energize you rather than drain you. The weak person gives to get love. The strong person gives from love. The weak person helps to feel important. The strong person helps because they have abundance. The weak person sacrifices to avoid guilt. The strong person sacrifices because they choose to. This is the secret of authentic power. When you become genuinely self-interested in the highest sense, interested in your own growth, your own truth, your own excellence, you automatically become more valuable to others. Not because you're trying to be, but because strength is naturally magnetic. The death of people-pleasing. One of the most insidious forms of weakness is people-pleasing, and it must die completely if you want to access your true power. Nietzsche saw people-pleasing as a form of psychological prostitution, selling your authentic self for the momentary approval of others. Every time you agree when you want to disagree, every time you laugh at jokes that aren't funny, every time you pretend to enjoy activities you hate, every time you modify your opinions to match the room, you're training yourself to be weak. You're teaching yourself that other people's comfort is more important than your authenticity. But here's what people-pleasers don't understand. The approval you gain through people-pleasing is worthless because it's not based on who you really are. It's based on your performance of who you think others want you to be. You're not being loved. You're being tolerated for your usefulness. Real respect, real love, real connection can only happen when you're being authentically yourself. This means some people won't like you. This means you'll face criticism, rejection, and conflict. But it also means that the people who do appreciate you will be appreciating the real you, not a carefully constructed facade. Nietzsche believed that the fear of being disliked is one of the greatest enemies of human potential. It keeps you small, predictable, and powerless. It prevents you from expressing your unique genius, from pursuing your authentic desires, from becoming who you're truly meant to be. So here's your new operating system. Stop trying to be liked and start trying to be respected. Stop trying to be agreeable and start trying to be authentic. Stop trying to fit in and start standing out. Stop asking, will this make people happy? And start asking, is this true to who I am? This doesn't mean being unnecessarily rude or dismissive. It means being honest about your thoughts, clear about your boundaries, and unapologetic about your standards. It means that your kindness becomes a choice rather than a compulsion. Your generosity becomes strategic rather than automatic. When you stop people-pleasing, something magnificent happens. You discover that you actually like yourself. You start to enjoy your own company. You begin to trust your own judgment. You develop genuine self-respect, which is the foundation of all authentic power. The alchemy of suffering. Now we come to perhaps Nietzsche's most profound insight. Suffering is not something to be avoided or medicated away. It's the raw material from which strength is forged, but only if you approach it correctly. Most people try to escape suffering through distraction, denial, or blame. They numb themselves with entertainment, substances, or busy work. They create elaborate stories about why they're victims, why life is unfair, why they can't be held responsible for their circumstances. But Nietzsche saw this as the ultimate waste of human potential. Every moment of pain, every disappointment, every failure, every humiliation, these are gifts disguised as curses. They're opportunities to develop qualities that can't be developed any other way. Resilience, wisdom, authentic confidence, and unshakable inner strength. The key is learning to transform suffering rather than simply endure it. This means asking different questions when you face difficulties. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? Instead of, how can I avoid this pain? Ask, how can I grow from this experience? Instead of, who can I blame for this? Ask, how can I take responsibility for my response? This is what Nietzsche called amor fati, love of fate. Not passive acceptance of whatever happens, but active embrace of your entire experience as necessary for your development. The pain that breaks weak people is the same pain that forges strong people. The difference isn't in the circumstances, it's in the response. Every person who has ever achieved genuine strength has a story of overcoming something that seemed impossible. The business people who built empires after going bankrupt, the artists who created masterpieces from their darkest moments, the leaders who found their voice through their deepest struggles. Your current pain, your current struggles, your current challenges, these aren't obstacles to your strength. They're the very means by which strength is developed. But only if you stop seeing yourself as a victim and start seeing yourself as a warrior in training. This requires a fundamental shift in identity. You're not someone to whom things happen. You're someone who transforms whatever happens into wisdom, strength, and power. You're not at the mercy of circumstances. You're an alchemist who turns lead into gold, who converts suffering into strength. The will to power. We arrive now at Nietzsche's central concept, the will to power. This isn't about dominating others or accumulating external power. It's about the fundamental drive to overcome yourself, to master your own nature, to become who you're truly capable of being. The will to power is the recognition that you are not a fixed entity. You are a project, a work in progress, a potential waiting to be actualized. Every day you have the choice to become stronger or weaker, more authentic or more false, more powerful or more pathetic. Most people drift through life letting circumstances shape them, letting other people define them, letting their past determine their future. But those with a strong will to power take responsibility for their own becoming. They actively sculpt themselves into something magnificent. This means taking complete ownership of your thoughts, your emotions, your habits, and your choices. It means recognizing that you are both the sculptor and the sculpture, the author and the character, the creator and the creation. Your weakness was a choice, perhaps an unconscious one, but a choice nonetheless. And if weakness was chosen, then strength can be chosen too. Right now, today, this moment. Stop waiting for motivation. Stop looking for permission. Stop hoping that someone else will rescue you from your own mediocrity. The power you've been seeking outside yourself has been inside you all along, waiting for you to claim it. Nietzsche's secret truth is this: you don't discover your power, you decide it. You don't find your strength, you forge it. You don't become powerful by accident, you become powerful by choice. The question isn't whether you have the capacity for strength. You do. The question is whether you have the courage to claim it. Your transformation begins now. You came here weak, conditioned to seek approval and avoid discomfort. You leave here with a choice: remain in the comfortable prison of mediocrity, or begin the difficult but rewarding journey toward authentic power. Everything you've learned today will be tested. The world will try to pull you back into weakness, into compliance, into the comfortable lie that you're powerless. Your old patterns will reassert themselves. Your conditioning will fight back. But now you know the truth. You know that your weakness is learned, which means it can be unlearned. You know that strength is a choice, which means you can choose it. You know that power comes from within, which means no one can take it from you. Nietzsche didn't promise that this path would be easy. He promised that it would be worth it. The person you become through this process, authentic, powerful, unshakable, will be someone you can respect, someone you can trust, someone you can love. Stop being weak. Start being powerful, not because you have to, but because you can. The choice is yours, and it always has been. Your transformation begins now.